there was a survey done of various district court clerks' offices, and abstractors actually asked for more files than attorneys did. And so it is a huge burden that we're trying to relieve and to keep them off the public access terminals in the courthouses and to relieve the burden on the clerks. And also to allow them to do this job providing legal access to court files for the general public. They're going to be able to access non-confidential documents and non-confidential cases at the courthouse, just as they do now. Instead of going to a counter, they're going to go to a public access terminal. They're going to be able to type in the case name and the party name, or the case number and the party name, and view that file. They will not, someone in Polk County will not be able to go to the Polk County courthouse and look at a Story County case. They're going to have to come to Story County to see it. If a case is on appeal from Story County, a member of the public can look at the district court case file either at the public access terminal in Story County or at the public access terminal at the Judicial Branch building in Des Moines. Okay, so those would be the only two places, the county of origin and if it's on appeal at the appellate court clerk's office. We move to protected information. You know, in the days of pure paper filing, when you filed something in one of 10,000 cases in that county, and eventually it made its way to a basement or a storage facility, and your neighbors had to go in and show their face to the clerk and ask to see your files, and they had to dig it out. And there was some practical obscurity to things that you filed in those court files, but being electronic, it becomes much easier to disseminate this information and disseminate it, you know, around the world in minutes if that's how you have it. And it becomes even more and more important to pay attention to redaction rules and what is considered protected information. Okay, the rules dealing with protected information, when we're listing what is protected information: Social Security numbers, financial account numbers, dates of birth, names of minor children, individual taxpayer ID numbers, personal ID numbers, or other unique identifying numbers. Those are listed as protected information. This is the exact same list that the federal courts used. It was a list that they came up with after, frankly, years of debate, public hearings, and discussion on the topic. And we also spent quite a bit of time on whether or not we wanted to include all those. And in the end, we did go with the same list that the federal courts use. This rule is critical, okay? It is the responsibility of the filer to ensure that, according to the rules of this division, the protected information is either omitted from the court document or redacted from documents before they are filed. Okay? It is not the clerk's responsibility to check through every document. As an example, if I were to take an appendix from a dissolution case that's on appeal, an appendix is a public document. I would say if I grabbed any dissolution case at random from my stack, I'd have probably a 60 to 70% chance of seeing a party's name, social security number, date of birth, and financial account information in its entirety by looking at that document. Occasionally these things get scanned in by people, and that information is out there. You need to make sure that you go in and protect your client and redact this information, or if the court doesn't need it, don't supply it to the court at all. In family law matters, the code requires you to give them some information that is listed on this protected information form, or in this list of protected information, and so you may need to do that, and we'll talk about how to do that and still protect your client. When we were writing these rules, I would occasionally go to different district court judges, and when they go to a judges conference, and I'd sit at different tables and talk to them about this. And a lot of judges said, you know, I really don't need the full information. In a dissolution case, I don't need every financial account number and all its digits. I just need enough to differentiate between this account and this account. Now, you may have a case where it's going to be critical that the judge knows the full number or knows the Social Security number and the date of birth, and you're going to have to make that call, but for the most part, why supply that information to anyone if you don't have to? But where you do, you can file a redacted information form or protected information form. And that protected information form is part of the court rules, the Chapter 16 court rules. So if you go online, you're going to be able to find that form. The form is confidential. So the only people who can see it is the court, the parties, and so if you have to provide, let's say, pursuant to code, a client's Social Security number, you can say, okay, here's my client's name, here's the Social Security number, and every time I'm required to include it in a document, I'm going to use these 3 numbers. And when you see those 3 numbers, you know if the judge needs to see it, they can go back to this protected information form and know exactly what it is. Okay, so again, if you're filing tax returns as exhibits or handing them over to the judge in a hearing, redact that Social Security number before you hand it over. Redact the children's Social Security numbers from that document before you hand it over. If you do need to supply it, and it's going to be on a public document or on a document that's going to be public after the decree is filed, for example, here's ways you can redact it. You use those last 4 digits of Social Security number, incomplete financial account number, initials for the children's names. You can disclose protected information only when full disclosure is required or a component of the document. And when we were sitting in the rules, the clerks of court were trying to think where is it that's really required. And one example that they came up with was a writ of execution may require the full financial account number to be able to effectively get that writ across and get what you need from it. And here's this protected information form. It's available out there. Look at it. It'll walk you right through what you need and how you can fill this out. And the nice thing is it'll be electronic, so if you have to add to it, you don't have to create a whole new form. You can add to it or modify it if you had inaccurate information. What happens if you if you accidentally file protected information? You can move to redact that information. You can even ask for an immediate order to seal the document and then get direction on how to file a properly redacted one. And then there could be a hearing as to whether or not that document should have been sealed or not. But in those cases where when we spoke in Plymouth, I know an attorney said, sometimes you can have that in there and you hit send and you've got the wrong document, and how do you go about it? Immediately move to seal it. If you happen to do it after the courthouse is closed, you may not be able to get it sealed right away, but there is some built-in protection here in that when you file it, the only people who are going to be able to see it are the court at that point and the other parties. So it's not available to the general public at that point. So you will have some time, if you get there right away when the courthouse opens, to try to get that sealed. Now, if you are lackadaisical and just don't care, and you file protected information all the time, or you have an opponent who is just out to get your client and so files it knowingly just to irritate them or to harm them, the court can, on its own motion or a motion of a party, sanction someone who is filing unredacted protected information. And sanctions can include damages, attorney fees, costs, and reasonable expenses. So it can be a pretty hefty sanction. Okay, redaction of transcripts. This is one of those rules that's undergoing a tweak as we speak. And the substance of this rule, so if you look at this rule online, it's going to be slightly different than what I'm talking to you about, but hopefully by the time Plymouth goes live, we'll have the new final version until we tweak it again out there for you. But the substance is the same of this rule. It's just that we found that it makes more sense if we clarify it. So we're adding additional language so you can go through the steps. So I'm going to go through what we anticipate the new rule to be. So when a court reporter files a transcript of